Good afternoon, everyone. I'm really pleased to welcome you all to the Center for Law, Justice, and Culture at Ohio University's 2021 Summer Law and Trial Institute. My name is Larry Hayman, and I'm the Program Director of the Summer Law and Trial Institute. This afternoon's mock criminal trials will represent the hard work and dedication of 18 high school students chosen from a very competitive applicant pool to spend part of their summer studying law and justice here at Ohio University. The students have been divided into 4 teams, 2 prosecution teams and 2 defense teams. You're about to observe 2 of those teams try their case before Athens County Probate and Juvenile Judge Zachary Saunders. 2 of the teams previously tried their case in front of Judge George McCarthy. As with the first case, at the conclusion of the matter, it will be submitted to a virtual jury for deliberation. Just want to give some special thanks to the Athens County Bar Association and Ohio University alumni contributions to be able to make this program free for selected participants, as well as to the many Ohio University alumni, students, and friends who make this program possible. With that, I and the students are excited to begin the program and the trial. And with that, I'll turn it over to you, Judge Saunders.
Thank you. And I briefly will say thank you for having me and allowing me to be a judge in today's case. I'm honored to be part of this as an Athens County resident living in Appalachia, but also being a OU alum. This is near and dear to my heart. A lot of these, times that I participated in these presentations, I've gotten to know Larry and the work that he does, and it does not go unnoticed. And he provides a lot of avenues and opportunities for high school students. And we are now seeing those students that participated in the first couple of years of the events of the Institute are now becoming law students and are rather successful law students. So I can't thank you enough, Larry. With that being said, we're now here for the trial, and I will turn it over to the prosecution for any preliminary matters before we get started.
Your permission to make appearances before the court, Your Honor?
Your request is granted. Please proceed.
Thank you. Good afternoon. My name is Karina Fagu, and I'm representing the prosecution on behalf of the state of New Columbia, alongside my co-counsel, Rachel Davenport. Good afternoon, Your Honor. We will be calling 3 witnesses today. First, Pat Smith.
Hello, Your Honor.
Hello.
Followed by then Dr. Alex Richards.
Good afternoon, Your Honor.
Good afternoon.
And finally, Tyler Johnson.
Good afternoon, Your Honor.
Good afternoon.
Before I begin my pretrial matters, would you like the defense to introduce themselves first?
Thank you. I would appreciate that. If the defense could introduce themselves and their witnesses, I would appreciate that.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Good afternoon, Your Honor. Permission to make appearances.
Permission is granted. Please proceed.
My name is Elizabeth Madore, and along with my co-counsel, Pendleton Evans.
Good morning, Your Honor.
Good morning, or good afternoon.
Oh, I'm sorry.
We will be representing Chris Archer in today's trial. Today, the defense is calling 3 witnesses. Dr. Jordan Mitchell, played by Danica Nelson.
Hello, Your Honor.
Hello, how are you?
Good.
Jesse Thomas, played by Danica Nelson.
Hello again.
Hello again.
And Chris Archer, played by Reynolds Heward.
Good afternoon, Your Honor.
Good afternoon. And thank you. Now that we have introductions from both the prosecution as well as the defense, I will turn it over to the prosecution for any preliminary matters.
Thank you, Your Honor. First, we would just like to ask that We'd like to draw the court's attention to Evidence Rule 615 and respectfully ask for the constructive sequestration of all witnesses.
I'm sorry, you broke up just right there. Can you repeat yourself?
We would like for the court's attention to be brought to the Rule of Evidence 615 and respectfully ask for the constructive sequestration of all witnesses.
Thank you. Defense, any objection?
No, but for the purposes of this trial, Chris Archer is our party representative.
And he will be allowed to stay, but other than that, we will sequester the witnesses.
Your Honor, we would also like to ask that at this time we could have constructive swearing in of all witnesses.
Thank you, and I will do that right now so I don't have to repeat myself throughout the trial, but to each witness, do you swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? And if you guys want to, since this is virtual, if you could raise your hands, understanding and either swearing or affirming the oath, that will be duly noted for the record. Thank you. Are there any other preliminary matters?
Yes, Your Honor. We would also like to draw the court's attention to case law Anderson v. New Columbia and respectfully ask and request that as person Anderson past behavior or incidents involving the victim and defendant when used as motive for the murder be admissible as well.
Thank you. Any objection or any statements from the defense on this?
No, but we would also like to address some pretrial matters.
Thank you. Is that, before I turn it over to the defense, does the prosecution have any other preliminary matters?
One thing, finally, the prosecution would also like to make comment about hearsay, as we would like to point out that under Rule 818, 801, the party opponents that statements made by the defendant are admissible. We ask the court to consider when reviewing hearsay objections.
Thank you, and I appreciate it.
Thank you, Your Honor.
With that being said, prior to opening statements, I will turn it over to the defense for any preliminary or pretrial matters.
Yes. I would like to bring the court to, excuse me, sorry. I would like to bring the court's attention to case law Thomas v. Silva, where if the charge is first-degree murder, lesser offenses can also be included if the defendant introduces lack of evidence for deliberation, premeditation, and malice.
Thank you. And I will, we will deal with that as the time goes. Any other matters?
No, Your Honor.
Okay. I will turn it over to the prosecution for opening statements.
May I proceed, Your Honor?
You may. Thank you.
Thank you. Your Honors, members of the jury, opposing counsel, may it please the court. Intimidation and incrimination. That is the story we have before you today. Today, the prosecution presents New Columbia versus Chris Archer. Chris Archer, the defendant in question, was president of Phi Gammas in 1997 and the one to plan the hazing rituals, which would take place on November 22nd. And it is because of his planning of these rituals and the hate, jealousy, and intimidation it caused Chris Archer to brutally end like 18-year-old Marlon Jackson. Today, the state is charging Chris Archer with count 1, first-degree murder, and count 2, criminal hazing. Our burden of proof today is, in fact, prove that Chris Archer is guilty of first-degree murder as well as criminal hazing. In order to do so, we have to prove that beyond a reasonable doubt that he did indeed have an intent as well as the plan to kill Marlon Jackson. And through the act of hate, he was able to do so. And today we plan to prove to you just that. So now, ladies and gentlemen, let me paint a picture of that sad and heart-wrenching day in November of 1997. It was a fun-filled day for the underclassmen at Columbus University. It was a fun-filled week, actually. It was a week where they got to participate in various different activities in order to get into the sororities and fraternities they had wanted all their lives. It was a time for them to follow in their families' footsteps and continue the legacy that their families had left for them. And that is exactly what Marlon Jackson was trying to do all until the night of November 22nd. Otherwise known as Hell Night. Chris Archer ordered for Marlon Jackson to be blindfolded while inside Gamma fraternity house. Then was to be let outside the fraternity house to perform one last task. They were informed before they had informed who had made it into the fraternity or not. While Marlon was outside and blindfolded, Chris Archer whispered in her ear, "I have a task for you," and that being for her to go up to the clock tower and raise the Gamma flag, which this tradition has been somewhat banned and restricted, specifically at Columbus University over the years because of how many deaths and injury it has caused, Your Honor. Yet for all, still made Marlon do it. After a few seconds of Marlon going up and trying to raise the flag, screams and yelling was heard. Chris Archer then pushed Marlon off the clock tower 26 feet to her death. The evidence will show that it is because Chris Archer's actions that it caused that 18-year-old Marlon Jackson. And in this case specifically, you will hear from Pat Smith, longtime friend of Marlon Jackson, as well as Gamma Pledge herself, and just how cruel and heinous things that Chris Archer made them do, such as forcing them to sleep with people just for a guaranteed spot. You will also hear from Dr. Alex Richards, who at the time counselor at Columbus University, and who has had numerous complaints brought to him, even from Marlon Jackson herself. You will also hear from Tyler Johnson, senior at Columbus University, who can attest to the mean and heinous behavior Chris Archer had towards Marlon Jackson. Now today, the defense will most likely give you an exhibit that states the legal intoxication level of a person is 0.10. And that at the time of Marlon's death, her blood alcohol level was 0.8. And it is because of this caused her to die. But that doesn't change the fact of now, Chris Archer knowing she was supposedly intoxicated, why would he take the risk of letting her go up to the clock tower anyways? But today that is not the case. The case is because Chris Archer took actions into his own hands to end the life of an innocent young girl. Thank you, Your Honor.
Thank you. Is there any opening statement from the defense?
Yes, Your Honor.
You may proceed.
Thank you. Your Honor, opposing counsel, members of the jury, may it please the court. My name is Elizabeth Medor, and on behalf of my counsel and on the defense, I will be representing Chris Archer in this opening statement. During this trial, the prosecution must prove beyond reasonable doubt that Chris Archer is guilty of first-degree murder and criminal hazing. The prosecution will fail to prove that Chris had any intent to harm or even kill Marlon. Painting Chris to perform such a malicious deed is just not true. Chris is an active advocate for education and leadership within the community. Chris had even previously denounced hazing at a campus-wide event, and he worked closely with campus administrators, such as Dean Thomas, to put an end to the practice of hazing. Chris encouraged people to be responsible and assume accountability for any and all of their actions. What the prosecution will fail to address is that Marlon Jackson was a fully functioning adult, a not-so-damned damsel. Marlon Jackson's death was untimely, but responsibility does not fall in Chris Archer's hands. Chris first met Marlon Jackson in early September during the campus's rush week. In Chris's eyes, Marlon had shown future promise, and the Gammas soon voted for Marlon to continue on as a pledge. But soon after, a few Gammas had raised questions about Marlon's behavior. Chris gave Marlon the benefit of the doubt. Even as her reputation began to crumble with some Gammas, Chris never disliked or disapproved of Marlon. All Gamma members planned tasks for the pledges to partake in during Hell Week and Hell Night. The Gammas are cautious not to cross the boundaries of hazing of any kind. No Gamma member exclusively planned to hurt the pledges, let alone threaten to kill Marlon. The Gammas never encouraged the pledges to consume alcohol or drugs prior or during their social events. But the words of advice only go so far. Chris encourages all Gamma members and pledges alike to act as the responsible adults that they are. On Sunday, November 22nd, Hell Night began. Marlon had gone against the advice of her peers and consumed 3 shots of tequila, enough to have a significant effect on her cognitive abilities and physical coordination regardless of tolerance. And unfortunately, Marlon's choice to consume alcohol that night led her to her death. As she fumbled towards the edge, Chris reached out and grabbed her shoulder, planning to pull her to safety. But it was no use. Marlon's compromised balance and coordination led her to the 26-foot fall that resulted in her death. At the time of her death, Marlon Jackson's blood alcohol level was 0.10, exceeding the legal intoxication level. No one is to blame for the tragedy on Hell Night. Although Marlon's death occurred on the night of the Gamma initiation process, it was not the direct result of Chris's influence. Marlon's death was not a violent crime, but an accident. Marlon was a smart and capable college student. She was a fully functioning and independent adult. She had chosen to drink that night, and unfortunately, because of that, she had made the conscious decision to go up to the clock tower under the influence. Chris Archer is not the villain, but rather highlights the discrepancies of law. Chris witnessed a peer's death firsthand. He watched Marlon plummet to her death. Yet he is the one put to blame. The prosecution has no way to prove to you that 1, Marlon's death was premeditated, 2, Chris had deliberately killed Marlon, and 3, that her death was a direct result of the fraternity's president's actions. Marlon was no damned damsel. Members of the jury, I request that you take into consideration everything that I've said today, along with evidence and testimonies that you will hear throughout this trial, and return with a not guilty verdict on both counts of first-degree murder and criminal hazing. Thank you.
Thank you. I will now turn it over to the prosecution for their case in chief. You may call your first witness.
Thank you, Your Honor. The prosecution calls Pat Smith.
Thank you. Mr. Smith, are you there?
I'm here.
Well, as I stated before, all witnesses were sworn in and the oath was administered in open court, and you are still under oath. Do you understand that?
I understand that.
Okay. You may proceed.
Thank you, Your Honor. Could you please state your name for the court?
Hi, my name is Pat Smith.
Why are you here in court today?
Well, Marlon Jackson and I were best friends. We had met in 3rd grade and we had clicked very easily. That was due to the fact that we tended to get picked on by people. She got picked on due to her being more chubby than more and also being really smart. They called both of us nerdy, so we just instantly clicked from there.
And how would you describe Marlon growing up?
Marlon, she was very shy, but all around a sweet and outgoing person. I knew that no matter what, we would always be friends.
And did you and Marlon stay friends after high school?
So during our senior year of high school, we decided to both apply to the same college. And we just did that due to not wanting to be alone and to experience the college life together. We knew also that we would get into the same college because we were just excellent students and could get into any school of our choice.
And did you both end up going to the same college?
Yes, we both did end up going to Columbus University together, and we were so excited so we could participate and just socialize more.
Did you end up both trying to engage socially more?
Yes, we ended up deciding to pledge to Phi Gamma.
And why did you decide on Phi Gamma?
Well, initially it was my idea to pledge because both my parents had pledged Phi Gamma back when they were in college, and it was just off the bat easier for me because I would automatically get to cross the line due to my being a member of Legacy. And Marlon was also excited because her favorite aunt was head of Gamma and president of the Gamma.
Were there any other reasons you chose to rush Phi Gamma?
Well, my parents had told me that Phi Gamma was really super popular and they were known for their parties. And we both were just excited to experience that.
And how did you first meet the Phi Gammas?
Well, when we first met the Gamma leaders and Chris Archer, the president of the Gammas, we met them during Rush Week, and they were all initially nice to us.
How did Chris Archer treat you during Rush Week?
Well, Chris went out his way to talk to us and let us know how lucky we were to pledge for the Gamma family. He also shared the values of Gammas, which we needed to know in order to cross the line.
And how did the pledge process go for you in Milan?
Now, this is where things turn for the worse. Initially, all the Gamma members were nice to us, but then they started making us and the pledges do really horrible things.
What sort of things did the Gammas make you do?
So it started off as them making us eat dirt. Then it led to us drinking quantities of alcohol. And then we had to clean our toilets with toothbrushes and just so much more. This is also when they started to tease Marlon.
Do you know what they were teasing Marlon about?
So I knew that Chris Archer had told Marlon that if she slept with his friend that she would be able to get
Objection, Your Honor.
Since we're virtual, I'll hold off. There was an objection from the defense, and what is the reasoning for the objection?
She's stating that she heard Chris say this. Oh, okay. Wait.
I didn't say
I
that.
actually retract my...
Are you withdrawing your objection?
Yes, sir.
Thank you. The prosecution may proceed. It appears that we're having some technical difficulty. Oh, there she is.
Am I back?
You're okay. Please proceed.
Thank you. What is Hell Week?
Hell Week is initially the last week and one of the most hardest and scariest weeks before we get to pledge across the line. This is where the leadership of the Gammas, including Chris Archer, makes the challenges for us.
Mm-hmm. And what happened during Hell Week?
Well, on Monday, the Gammas had made all of the pledges strip to their underwear, and they began to make fun of us. They stood around us and laughed at us. That's when a lot of the pledges began to cry, especially when the male Gammas would spank us on our behind with a wooden paddle.
And how did you feel about these challenges?
Well, personally, I was upset to the point where I had an asthma attack, and I had asked Chris and the other leaders if I could get my asthma inhaler, and they all told me no, and that's when I had passed out, and next thing you know, I ended up in the hospital.
Do you remember anything from the hospital?
I remember Chris and the pledges Chris and his leaders coming to visit me. At first, I thought they were coming to apologize, but then they threatened me. Chris Archer had told me that if I told anyone what happened, he would make me an outcast.
Did you go to anyone after this happened to you?
Initially, I had went to the police first and got questioned and gave a statement. Then I had went to the dean of our university, Dean Thomas, and told her what had happened. Then the dean refused to report the incident because I had retracted my initial statement from the police.
After all this, did you continue pledging?
I did, sadly, because I just didn't want to become an outcast. Plus, I didn't want to leave Milan alone, so I lasted till Hell Night.
And what is Hell Night?
Well, Hell Night is the last night of Hell Week, which is notorious for being the most difficult and scariest night. All the pledges get special challenges this night, and if you complete it, you've officially become a Gamma.
And what happened during Hell Week?
So first, it started with the Gammas making us drink large quantities of alcohol, which personally, I didn't want to.
And what did you drink?
Well, Marlon and I together had both drank about 3 shots of tequila.
Were you drunk?
I was a little bit tipsy, but that's because I don't drink, and I don't drink like that, but more often, Milan drinks more than me. But she still seemed to be tipsy and still seemed to know what she was doing and was speaking very well.
Now, moving forward, you mentioned you all get special challenges. What kind of challenges were given?
Well, so the only challenge that I had heard was Milan's, and Chris Archer had whispered into her ear that he has something special in mind for her. Right after that, Milan ran
Objection,
straight
Your
for the
Honor.
Well, we'll stop for a second. The defense objected to this line of questioning. I will turn it over to the defense for reasoning.
The witness in question was not outside when Marlon was receiving her task. Therefore, it is hearsay.
All right. I'll turn it over to the prosecution for
I'm
rebuttal
sorry.
or response.
You muted out. What did you say? I'm sorry. I could not hear you.
Since we are having some technical issues, I will allow the defense to restate their reasoning for the objection.
This is hearsay, sir.
Thank you. To the prosecution.
This is not being offered for the truth of the matter, sir, but rather being offered for the effect of the listener and the subsequent action. This statement cannot be hearsay.
Thank you. I'm going to overrule the objection and allow the prosecution to proceed.
Thank you, Your Honor.
You can finish your question or answer. Excuse me.
You can finish
Okay.
your answer.
Well, right after hearing what I had heard, that's when I seen Milan run straight for the clock tower with the flag.
And did you see what happened next?
I had heard noises, and I had immediately removed my blindfold and ran outside. Next thing you know, I see Milan on the top of the clock tower and Chris right behind her.
What was Chris doing?
Well, I had saw Chris Archer put his hand
Objection.
on Milan's.
Objection. Can I be heard? Did you hear me?
You can, but you cannot be heard due to your co-counsel previously objecting. In court, once a party objects, if there's co-counsel, that same counsel has to continue with the objection as well as the line of questioning. So it would have to be your co-counsel be objecting to this witness.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry.
That's okay. I'm glad it happened though, and we'll talk about it later. But I'll turn it back over to the prosecution.
You may continue with your
Okay,
answer.
well, I had saw Chris put his hand on Milan's shoulder and push her off the ledge. Next thing you know, I saw Milan, my best friend's lifeless body on the ground.
Thank you, Your Honor. No further questions.
Thank you. I will turn it over to the defense. You may cross-examine this witness.
Thank you, Your Honor. Good afternoon. My name is Elizabeth Medor. On behalf of the defense, I'll be asking you some questions today. So firstly, I'd like to offer my condolences to you, and if you need a moment, please let me know. Now, you mentioned in direct that you and Milan had been friends for a long time.
Yes, that's true, since third grade.
And you'd agree with me that you felt like you really knew Milan?
Yeah, she was my best friend.
And you'd agree with me that you and Milan were very impressed with the Phi Gamma chapter initially?
Yeah, initially, but that was because of our parents and because of her aunt.
So yes, you were impressed initially with Phi Gamma.
We were.
And you were both willing to participate in their initiation process known as Hell Week?
Yes.
And on the first night of Hell Week, Monday, November 17th, you experienced an asthma attack.
Yeah, I did.
You approached Dean Thomas later that week about alleged hazing that had occurred.
Yeah.
But you then retracted your statement when speaking with the police.
That's because I was threatened by Chris Archer and I was afraid of becoming an outcast.
That's a yes or no question, ma'am.
Yes.
And since you hadn't experienced hazing, you then decided to participate in the last night of Hell Week.
Yes, I did.
Now, I want to talk about the last night of Hell Week. You claim to have seen Chris push Milan off the clock tower.
Yes, I did.
But let's back up for a second and talk about the events that led up to this. That night, you and Marlon drank alcohol.
Yes, we did.
And you both drank about 3 shots of tequila?
Yes, together. I don't know about after, but us together, we drank 3 together.
Okay. And you'd agree with me that alcohol can impact you in different ways psychologically?
Yes, it can impact someone differently.
Mm-hmm. But let's also clarify for the jury the environment. This all occurred around 1 a.m?
Yeah.
And you'd agree with me at this point it was dark outside?
There were street lights, so technically it wasn't too dark that I couldn't see.
But yes, it was dark outside.
Yes, it was dark outside.
And again, you'd agree with me that it's not as easy to see in the dark.
But if there's street lights, it kind of is.
Yes, but my question is, it's not as easy to see in the dark, regardless of...
If
Go
it was
ahead.
pitch black, yes, but it wasn't pitch black. There was a party and there was street lights and I was able to see.
Okay, but you would agree with me that in the dark, even with street lights, you were not able to see as well as you would in the day?
That is true.
Okay. Now, let's talk about the rest of the pledging process that night. Each pledge was blindfolded inside of the house?
Yes.
And then taken out in front of the house one by one?
Yes.
So you were inside and blindfolded when Marlon was outside?
Yes.
So you'd agree with me that you did not witness any interactions between Chris and Marlon outside of the building?
No, I did not see anything, but I heard.
Okay. In your statement, you actually do not say you heard anything. You did not hear any interactions between Chris and Marlon. Permission to bring up her statement, Your Honor?
In the reasoning?
Her statement is not aligning with her affidavit.
You're fine. Prosecution?
No objections, Your Honor, she may.
And you can proceed bringing her affidavit up.
Thank you. Give me 1 second. Apologies, Your Honor. I'm trying to
Your
find
Honor,
the
for the sake of time, should I just present it on my screen?
That is fine with me, and you do not need to apologize. We're in a technical difficulty part of the world. This is minor compared to what has happened in other cases, so you're perfectly fine. But yes, if the prosecution has it available for time constraints, I would appreciate it.
Pen, can you please zoom in? In your statement, you say, I heard Chris's voice call for Marlon. We have something special in mind for you. She responded, and then you heard footsteps, but you did not hear any other interactions outside until the screaming, correct?
That is true.
So you did not hear anything that Chris had said while you were inside and Marlon was outside?
There's been an objection. I will turn it over to the prosecution for basis for the objection.
Thank you. The whole reason for showing this affidavit was the fact that the defendant said she didn't hear anything. As you can see, that is not true. She didn't specify exactly what hearing was in this case. And as you can see clearly in like the 4th line down, it says she did hear Chris talk, but the defendant did not specify as to what she was talking about in the sense of showing the affidavit. So in that sense, you can't like prove anything from it or go the route you're trying to go because you didn't bring it up.
I will turn it over to the defense for a reply.
I did not say hear, I said witness, so hearing and seeing would be applicable.
You said, sorry.
Nope, you may proceed.
Your Honor, she said heard. She told my witness you didn't hear or heard anything, but according to her sworn affidavit, and like she said, she did hear something. She heard Chris. But what the defendant's trying to do right now is saying that she didn't hear Chris scream or do anything like that, but she did hear something, but the defendant didn't specify exactly what it was to my witness. So this can't be used as the route she is trying to go. Thank you.
So the purposes for allowing the affidavit was solely to refresh the witness's recollection. We're not going to go down an interrogation route in terms of asking line by line for her affidavit. Solely going forward, if it is dealing with her memory of whether she can't remember, you can use the affidavit to refresh her recollection, but I'm just going to ask the defense to move on.
Okay, thank you, Your Honor. So approximately 5 minutes later, you had heard screaming, correct? Outside?
Yes, that's when I ran outside.
And, excuse me. You did not hear Chris tell anyone he had wanted to hurt Marlon in any way?
No, not to my knowledge, no.
And you didn't hear him tell her to go up to the clock tower?
No.
In fact, you never heard anyone threaten Marlon, correct?
Nope, not in front of me.
Therefore, you have no way of knowing Chris's motives towards Marlon.
Yep, that is true.
Thank you. No further questions, Your Honor.
Thank you. Any redirect from the prosecution?
No, Your Honor, that is all.
Well, thank you, Mr. Smith. You are free to go.
Thank you.
And with that, the prosecution can call their next witness.
The prosecution would now like to call Dr. Alex Richards to the stand.
Dr. Richards, you've previously been administered the oath in open court and are still under oath. Do you understand that?
Yes, Your Honor.
Thank you. You may proceed.
Could you please state your name for the court?
My name is Alex Richards.
And what is your current occupation?
I am a psychiatrist who specializes in student counseling here on Columbus University's campus.
And what is your educated background?
I received a master's in psychology and a PhD in young adult psychology from Northwest University. I also have a medical degree from Gladden University.
Thank you. Your Honor, is it because of these qualifications? I would like to ask you if you can make my witness an expert witness.
Thank you. Any objection from the defense?
Defense does not object, Your Honor.
Then I will deem this witness to be an expert witness. You may proceed.
Thank you, Your Honor. So, do you have any specializations at all?
I specialize in what is known as gang mentality.
And what is gang mentality?
I'm quite familiar with the initiation processes of many gangs and Greek organizations.
Mm-hmm. What made you specialize specifically in gang mentality?
Family trauma.
Mm-hmm. Do you present your research at all?
I encourage schools to either adopt strict disciplinary measures with their fraternities and sororities or to disallow them altogether.
Mm-hmm. Are there any specific fraternities, sororities that you aim to educate with all of this knowledge?
Yes, I'm specifically interested in collaborating with the Phi Gamma because I saw firsthand the impact of their initiation process.
And how did you gain this insight?
I myself pledged Gamma 20 years ago, but I never crossed. I know how vicious they can be. When I pledged, the Gammas pressured their pledges to engage in many life-threatening activities.
To your knowledge, does Phi Gamma employ those initiation tactics?
Based on my sessions with students, it seems as though each year the members of the various Greek organizations get increasingly cruel. One student named Marlon Jackson confirmed my concerns.
And who is Marlon Jackson?
Marlon was one of my patients. She came to see me the week after freshman campus orientation before she rushed Gamma. She really wanted to be accepted. Marlon's shy sweetness and her insecurity touched me. Marlon had experienced a difficult childhood.
What did you learn about Marlon through your sessions?
She lived her life to please and impress others. She worked hard to be the prettiest, smartest, and most successful.
How did you get involved? How did Marlon get involved with this fraternity life based on your sessions?
Her Aunt Tanya was a Gamma.
And how did Marlon tell you if she ever rushed the fraternity?
Yes, she told me she rushed Gamma.
Oh, there was an objection, so I will turn it over to the defense for the basis of the objection.
I'm sorry. I retract my objection. I lost my train of thought.
That's perfectly fine. I will deem the objection withdrawn, and you can restate your question to this witness if you'd like, prosecution.
Thank you, Your Honor. Did Marlon tell you if she ever rushed the fraternity, specifically Phi Gamma?
Yes, she told me she rushed Phi Gamma.
Did Marlon progress through the Phi Gamma rushing process after telling you?
Yes, after she was accepted as a pledge, she was absolutely delighted.
Did Marlon ever share her opinions on Phi Gamma during your sessions with her?
Yes, she developed, from an early stage, she developed strong loyalty to the Phi Gammas. She wanted to show that she had what it took to be a Gamma, and she would do whatever it took, and more if necessary.
And in your professional opinion, having sessions with her, what was Marlon's relationship with the Phi Gammas after being accepted to rush?
I believe it was initially positive, but she stopped speaking about the rush process and became closed off. I was suspicious because I know about the Gammas, of course.
Did you encourage Marlon to share the pledge process and what was going on with her to you in your sessions?
I begged her to tell me, but she stopped and said nothing.
Did you take any further actions to figure out what was going on?
I told Marlon to talk to Dean Thomas, but she refused because it would harm her status as a pledge. There was no additional actions I could take without her participating.
And after telling Marlon that, did you ever meet with Marlon after the session ended?
No, Marlon passed during a pledging event at Phi Gamma and no longer was available for my help.
Dr. Richards, based on your expert opinion, what can you conclude Marlon was experiencing through her death? Well, before.
Throughout my many sessions with Marlon, what she shared and what she didn't share or refused to share leads me to believe that she was experiencing hazing, and her death was the culminating effect of all this.
Thank you. No further questions, Your Honor.
Thank you. I'll turn it over to the defense for cross-examination purposes. Excuse me.
Good afternoon. My name is Pendleton Evans, and on behalf of the defense, I'll be asking you some questions today. Is that okay?
Of course.
Dr. Richards, are you familiar with the initiation processes of Greek organizations?
Yes.
You're familiar because when you were in college, you actually attempted to join a fraternity,
Yes, I did.
but you weren't accepted.
No, I was not.
Let's talk more about Marlon Jackson. She was one of your patients, correct?
Correct.
She presented insecurities. Is that true?
She was insecure.
And Marlon began seeing you before she got involved with the Gammas, correct? Just to clarify.
Yes.
So you would agree with me that her insecurities existed prior to her interaction with the Gammas?
I would say so.
You observed her to have several disorders, correct?
Correct.
And Marlon had a history of intoxication.
Yes.
And drug usage?
Yes.
She seemed likely to be approaching the point of addiction. Is that true?
That is true.
Did you feel that Marlon needed to frequently attend your psychiatric sessions?
I believe so.
Did you believe that Marlon should not have pledged the Phi Gamma fraternity?
I counseled her against it.
So you advised her to not? Okay.
Correct.
Is this because of her personality
Yes.
and her past mental illnesses?
Yes.
But she chose to pledge the fraternity.
She did.
She made this choice independently.
Correct.
Did Marlon ever mention to you of any hazing from the Gammas?
I don't know. She didn't specify whenever I asked her about it.
Okay, so no. So did Marlon ever mention that she feared for her life?
No.
Did she ever mention that someone threatened her life?
No.
She never mentioned that anyone planned to kill her?
No.
She never mentioned to you that she was scared of Hell Week?
I don't think so.
So she did not mention to you that she was scared of Hell Week?
Yes.
Did Marlon ever mention Chris Archer in any of your sessions?
I don't recall.
So you never heard Marlon mention Chris Archer in any of your sessions?
Not that I know of.
How? Okay. Just to clarify, Marlon never mentioned the defendant Chris Archer in your sessions. You're her psychiatrist.
Yes.
Okay. No further questions, Your Honor.
Thank you. Any redirect from prosecution?
No, Your Honor, that's it.
Okay. Well, thank you, Dr. Richards, for your testimony. I do appreciate it. I will next, again, turn it back over to the prosecution for their next witness.
Your Honor, at this time, the prosecution would like to call Tyler Johnson to the stand.
Mr. Johnson, as in the with the prior witnesses, you were administered an oath, which was done in open court, and understand that you're still under oath.
Yes.
With that being said, I will turn it over to the prosecution.
Thank you, Your Honor. Will you please state your name for the court?
My name is Tyler Johnson.
Are you currently employed?
I'm not. I'm a student at Columbus University.
Oh, what do you study at Columbus University?
I study business.
Are you involved in any extracurriculars?
Yeah, I'm actually a part of the Phi Gamma fraternity on campus.
Oh, how did you become involved with the Phi Gamma?
Well, my freshman year, I was the president of the new Gammas, and I just continued based off of that.
Are you still the president?
I'm not.
Who's the president now?
Chris Archer is.
Did that impact your relationship with Chris?
Yes, it did.
Did you continue to be involved with the Phi Gamma?
Yeah, I still volunteer and interact with the pledges.
So are you familiar with Marlon Jackson?
Yeah, we were close.
Did Marlon befriend any of the other Gammas?
She did not.
Do you know why?
Well, they thought of her as stuck up and arrogant. They didn't know her as well as I did.
Why is that?
She was very quiet and reserved, and it gave them the impression that she was stuck up.
Did you ever see Marlon interact with any of the other Gammas?
I saw her talk to Chris a couple times.
What did you see Marlon and Chris Archer do?
Well, Chris told Marlon that if she wanted to impress him, Marlon would have to hang the flag on top of the clock tower. I mean, his tone was jokingly, but I thought it was very dangerous and did not find it funny.
What did you observe about Chris and Marlon after that?
Their relationship started out friendly, but over time, Chris began to resent Marlon.
What happened?
Well, Chris tried to set Marlon up with one of his friends, and Marlon rejected the offer.
What happened after that?
Chris began to sort of have it out for Marlon.
Did Marlon continue the pledging process?
Yes, she did. She was very determined to become part of the Gamma fraternity.
How far did she make it?
She made it all the way to Hell Night.
What is Hell Night a part of?
It's a part of Hell Week where we see if the pledges are capable of, passing on into the fraternity.
What type of tasks do you give them?
Oh, well, for example, one time we had a kid chew on an eggshell. We told them it was a piece of glass. Just harmless stuff like that to mess with their mind, sort of.
Was that similar to what you guys did this particular Hell Week?
No, this year Chris took it way too far. He sent one of the kids to the hospital. He had an asthma attack, and he hit him with a wooden paddle.
Did these type of occurrences continue on Hell Night?
Yes, they did.
How did Hell Night start?
It started out with a lot of drinking. Marlon was very drunk, and when it was her time to complete her task, she just started rushing over to the clock tower. We didn't know what she was doing.
Did you know what Marlon's task was beforehand?
I didn't, but I overheard Chris whisper the words tower and flag to Marlon.
What did you see next?
Well, we all rushed over to the clock tower. Only Chris was fast enough to catch up to her, and I saw Chris push Marlon off.
No further questions, Your Honor.
Thank you. Any cross-examination questions from the defense?
Yes, Your Honor. May I proceed?
You may. Thank you.
Good afternoon. I'm Elizabeth Menthor, and on behalf of the defense, I'll be asking you some more questions. So let's reflect a little bit on your history as a Gamma member. You've been a member of Phi Gamma since your freshman year.
Correct.
And after pledging, you had been voted as head of the new Gammas.
Yes, that's correct.
And because of your previously held position in the fraternity, you had intended on being elected as chapter president your senior year.
Yes, that was the intention.
But Chris was elected instead.
Yes.
And you blamed Chris for losing this election.
I did.
And if Chris was to be convicted, you would be first in line to assume the position as Gamma president.
Objection. Relevance.
Any response from the defense?
I'm establishing bias, Your Honor.
I'm going to overrule the objection and allow her to proceed.
May I can I?
You may continue. Yes, thank you.
Okay. And if Chris was to be convicted, you'd be first in line to assume the position as Gamma president.
Correct.
Okay. Now, I would like to discuss your relationship with Marlon. You mentioned in your direct that you and Marlon had grown close after Rush Week.
Yes.
And you two spent time together frequently.
Yes, we were close.
So during this time, you both drank.
Yes.
And you would agree she seemed to be more expressive when she was drinking.
Yeah.
And one of the topics you discussed with Marlon was her plans regarding joining the Gammas.
That's correct.
And you would agree with me again that you thought Marlon had become obsessed with joining the Gammas.
More determined, but yes.
And you suggested to Marlon that perhaps she should try to do something spectacular in, quote, to outshine the other pledges and impress the Gammas, correct?
Objection. This is hearsay. This is an out-of-court comment being brought forward for the truth of the matter.
Any response from the defense?
No comment. May I continue?
Well, do you have any response to her stating that this was an objectory statement based upon it being hearsay?
No, I think she was correct. That was.
I will sustain the objection then.
Excuse me. Let's walk through the initiation process as a current Gamma member. As a Gamma member, you all plan tasks for the pledges as part of Hell Night, correct?
That's correct.
So you agree with me that Gamma members do not plan to intentionally put the pledges in danger during initiation?
That's correct.
And Chris never.
That question calls for speculation. He can only talk to his own intentions.
Well, he has already answered the question, but I will allow the prosecution, or I'm sorry, the defense to provide a reasoning or I guess rationale to whether this was speculative or not.
This is not speculatory because as a Gamma member, he's been a Gamma member for approximately 4 years. So he even had in his affidavit that he thinks that all Gammas look out for each other and do and never plan to intentionally hurt anyone or in any way.
I will overrule the objection. It has been shown by the defense that he does have personal knowledge, and they're just hammering on that personal knowledge, so I will overrule the objection. You may proceed.
Thank you. And Chris never explicitly said to you that he had planned to hurt Marlon.
He said that he had something special in mind for her.
But he never explicitly said that he had planned to hurt her?
Correct.
And on Hell Night, you were outside when Marlon was receiving her task.
Yes.
And Chris had whispered in her ear, but you did not hear the entirety of what Chris had said.
That's correct.
And when Marlon had rushed towards the tower, you, Chris, and other Gamma members rushed after her.
Yes.
And after Marlon, Chris was the first to arrive at the top of the tower.
Yes.
And by the time you had arrived at the top of the building, Marlon had already fallen.
Yes.
So you did not witness any interactions between Chris and Marlon on top of the clock tower.
I saw Chris reach out his hand to Marlon.
Okay. That is not included in your. Can I use his affidavit to refresh his statement, or actually, never mind. May I continue?
You may continue. Thank you.
Did you witness Chris push Marlon?
I did not.
So you only saw Chris reach out his hand?
Yes.
So Chris was the only person up close to witness Marlon's death?
Yes.
No further questions, Your Honor. Thank you.
Thank you. Any redirect from the prosecution?
Yes, Your Honor.
Thank you. You may proceed.
What did you see when you saw Marlon running toward the clock tower?
I'm sorry, can you repeat the question?
Absolutely. What did you see when Marlon started running towards the clock tower?
I saw Chris was first, and he was the only one to reach her in time.
And what did you see after that?
I saw Chris stretch out his hand, and then Marlon fell to her death.
To you, did it look like he pushed her?
Yes.
No further questions, Your Honor.
Thank you. Any recross from the defense?
Yes, Your Honor.
You may proceed.
You claim to have just stated that you saw that you saw Chris reach out his hand.
Correct.
But you did not witness him push Marlon.
I'm not unsure if that was his action, but to me, that's what it looked like.
So you are speculating that Chris pushed Marlon based on some personal biases?
Not based on personal bias, but yes, I'm speculating that he pushed it.
Okay, no further questions, Your Honor. Thank you.
Thank you. Anything further on this witness from the prosecution?
No, Your Honor.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Johnson. You are free to go. With that being said, is there any additional testimony on behalf of the prosecution?
No, Your Honor. The prosecution rests their case in chief.
Thank you very much. We'll now turn it over to the defense. In terms of witnesses, does the defense have any witnesses?
Yes, Your Honor. The defense would like to call Dr. Mitchell to the stand.
Dr. Mitchell, as with the prior witnesses, you were administered an oath in open court and understand that you're still under oath, correct?
Yes, Your Honor.
Thank you. You may proceed.
Can you please state your name for the court?
Yeah, Dr. Jordan Mitchell.
And what's your education?
I graduated from Stephen Biko University with a PhD in American history.
And what is your occupation?
I'm an historian who studies the history of colleges in New Columbia.
How long have you studied the colleges in New Columbia?
I believe for the last 25 years.
What works have you written about the topic?
Let me think. I've written over 13 articles and 2 books on this topic.
Have you written any works about Columbus University itself?
Yeah, I wrote a book. It's called The History of Columbus University with studies.
What topics does this book contain specifically?
Well, specifically, it is about the lives of students at the university and the history from its founding from 1985 to the present day.
Your Honor, I request that Dr. Richards be established as an expert witness.
Any objection from the prosecution?
No objections, Your Honor.
Thank you. Dr. Mitchell will be deemed an expert. You may proceed.
What's your familiarity with Greek life at Columbus University, Dr. Mitchell?
Well, I'm very familiar with Columbus University's Greek life. Like I said, I've been at the university for studying the university for 25 years. Columbus University's founder was a strong component of incorporating Greek techniques and philosophies into the university.
What is Columbus University's relationship with its fraternities?
Can you please restate the question?
Sure. What is Columbus University's relationship with its fraternities?
Back to the founder, he limited the teaching. He omitted the teaching techniques of the ancient Greeks to establish Columbus University as the fine campus it is today. He believed that fraternities created humanity and brotherhood. Examples of this would be like Alpha Delta, Phi Gamma, Kappa Kappa Gamma. He emphasizes 3 principles for the universities, such as like academics, athletics, and fraternities and sororities.
What is Phi Gamma's relationship with the university?
Phi Gamma got its start at Columbus University. It's one of the oldest national co-educational fraternities. The Gammas are known for having excellent and high-achieving members. They are some of the most politically and financially successful people in the country. Because of the sense of connection fraternities and their members instill, Gammas tend to look out for each other.
What was Phi Gamma's history of hazing?
I believe decades and decades ago, they had a few instances of dangerous hazing. Still, their most risky tradition hasn't been practiced since 1978. Additionally, colleges across the country began to crack down on these activities. They instituted severe punishments on fraternities and sororities, including Phi Gamma. because of the strict consequences that hazing posed, the Gammas have, I think, only had about 5 reported incidents since 1987.
Who is the president of Phi Gamma?
Currently, the president of Phi Gamma, I believe, was Chris Archer. I had the pleasure of speaking with him. Chris Archer is very friendly. He was nice and cooperative. The Gammas, of course, have the reputation of being magnanimous personalities.
Thank you for no further questions, Your Honor.
Thank you. Any questions from the prosecution?
Yes, Your Honor.
You may proceed.
Thank you. My name is Karina Fagoon. I'll be crossing you today. So first, can you please restate your name for the court?
Sorry, you cut out. What did you say?
Could you please restate your name for the court?
My name is Dr. Jordan Mitchell.
Thank you. You studied at Columbus University, is that correct?
Yes.
Yes. And you've also written several books on Greek life, specifically at CU, is that right?
Yes.
And is it true that until this incident with the death of Marlon Jackson, your books weren't selling so well? Is that also right?
I'm sorry, you cut out.
Is it true that until the incident of Marlon Jackson's death, your books were not selling so well?
Yes.
Mm-hmm. And you actually made $2 million profit off this new book. Is that also correct?
Yes.
Yes. Okay, moving on. The whole reason for the creation of sororities and fraternities at Columbus University, based on your knowledge, was to mimic Greek life. Is that right?
I'm sorry, it keeps cutting out.
Okay. And the whole, moving forward, the whole reason for the creation of sororities and fraternities at Columbus University was to mimic Greek life. Is that right?
Yes.
Yes. Mm-hmm. Now, Greek life is also known to be barbaric and dangerous at times, right, based on your knowledge. Is that right?
Yes.
Mm-hmm. And isn't it true that the Gamma House has a reputation for being the most dangerous place for its hazing techniques?
Not necessarily. It's changed.
Okay, but do you have any proof of this change that it's not doing those things anymore?
No.
Okay. And is it true that even though people have given testimonies to your numerous amount of books you've written, is it true that those same people redact statements because they are afraid of what the Gammas might do to them? Is that correct?
I'm not sure about. People have retracted statements. Yes to that, but I am not sure about being scared of that.
Okay. Well, one of the most prominent things that Gamma House specifically is known for is the raising the flag ritual. Do you have any knowledge of that?
Yes.
Mm-hmm. And since you have knowledge of it, are you aware that 5 deaths occurred from it? Is that correct?
How many deaths did you say? 1
death with 4 injuries. Mm-hmm. And this ritual has gotten restrictions because of how dangerous it is. Is that also correct?
Yes.
Mm-hmm. But again, you have no proof that they stopped the rituals, physical proof?
I do not have proof.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. That is all, Your Honor.
Thank you. Any redirect from the defense?
Yes. Can I proceed?
You may. Thank you.
Dr. Richards, does Phi Gamma fraternity have any recent history of hazing or incidents?
No. Not that I'm aware of.
No further questions, Your Honor.
Thank you. Any follow-up from the prosecution?
Yes. You just claimed there was no. Wouldn't this incident with Marlon Jackson be an incident that occurred at Phi Gamma House?
Objection, Your Honor.
Reasoning for objection?
I didn't ask if they had a recent history of any. I said if they had any history of hazing or hazing-like incidents.
I can restate my question or change it.
You please do.
Like,
Thank you.
is Marlon Jackson's death, in your opinion, your professional opinion, an incident that occurred at Phi Gamma House or as a result of hazing at Phi Gamma House?
Objection.
And your objection is?
I'm questioning the relevance of this question. It's pretty obvious that this incident did happen and that it
Well,
happened.
she did claim that, sorry, not,
No,
Your
you
Honor.
can, please proceed.
She did claim that no recent incidents or certain incidences didn't occur, so I was just clarifying that if Marlon Jackson's death wasn't or was an incident.
Yes, it's an incident, but it's not related to the hazing. That wasn't your question. You said just an incident.
Okay, that is all from me, Your Honor.
I'm going to sustain the objection and thank you. And there's no further questions from the prosecution?
No further questions, Your Honor. Thank you.
Okay. Any, I guess, follow-up questions from the defense?
No, Your Honor. I'm sorry.
Thank you. No, you're perfectly fine. Dr. Mitchell, you're free to go. Thank you very much. The defense can call their next witness.
Yes, I'd like to call Jesse Thomas to the stand, please.
As with the other witnesses, you have been previously sworn in under oath in open court, and you understand that you're still under oath, correct?
Yes, Your Honor.
Thank you. You may proceed with this witness.
Thank you. Can you please briefly introduce yourself to the court?
Yeah, my name is Jesse Thomas. I'm the dean at Columbus University.
And what's your background in administration and education?
Well, I graduated from Ohio University with a degree in education, and I've been the dean for about 10 years at Columbus University.
And so as the dean at Columbus University, what are some of your roles and responsibilities?
Well, of course, it's to aid others when needed. I look out for the students at Columbus University, making sure everyone is okay, hoping to create a safer campus environment. I'm also involved with the university's extracurriculars, such as sports, fraternities, sororities.
Okay, so you've mentioned you're involved with the university's extracurriculars, such as sports, fraternities, sororities, etc. Why is that important as a dean?
Well, it's my responsibility to help maintain the college's good reputation. I plan anti-hazing and anti-underage drinking rallies along with attending fraternity and sorority events at Phi Gamma and Delta, Sigma, Theta, as well as other organizations.
And could you please describe your familiarity with Phi Gamma?
I am very familiar with Phi Gamma. It's one of the most popular organizations whose members are well-rounded students.
And are you familiar with the student Chris Archer?
Yes, I personally know Chris Archer. He's a real asset to the school. He has helped organize anti-hazing rallies with me, as well as volunteers at the women's shelter and tutors kids in elementary school. Chris is a born leader and educator. Change is needed, but I think this gets rid of, oh, sorry.
No, go ahead.
No, I'm finished, yeah.
Okay, thank you. And as one of your duties as dean, you mentioned your focus on creating a safer campus environment. Can you elaborate on that?
Can you say the question again? I didn't catch it.
Yes. As one of your duties as dean, you mentioned your focus on creating a safer campus environment. Can you please elaborate on that?
Yeah. We don't condone bullying or any act of hazing. We enforce strict campus rules about hazing. We actually send out a letter to all Greek organizations during the rush week at the beginning of each year, reminding them of the law and the school rules against hazing. Although we've had to discipline a few organizations in the past, most students seem to respect the policy, and we have very few reported incidents of hazing now.
And what steps do you take when hazing has been reported by a student?
Well, when hazing is reported by a student, I take it very seriously. To the extent of the hazing, I contact the people involved and even law enforcement. enforcement. I had to do this once, I believe, with Pat Smith when she came to me to report that some hazing had been taking place.
And what steps did you take when witness Pat Smith reported this alleged hazing?
Well, I was first shocked because obviously we don't condone that. But I told her that Gammas pranked the pledges, and then I proceeded to ask her if there was anything that put her in physical danger. She then proceeded to tell me that she had an asthma attack after being paddled by some of the Gammas. I then told her that the Gammas didn't mean any harm. However, these claims must be taken seriously. So when Pat left the office, I called the police.
And did you have any concerns or discrepancies after hearing from Pat?
Yes, it was concerning, but again, we didn't follow through with the investigation because she couldn't keep her story straight. When the police went to confront her, she totally changed her story. Again, I was concerned, so I sent out a memo, and I also sent out a special note to Chris about how there should be no hazing.
And would you recognize a copy of your memo in court?
Yes.
Your Honor, permission for my co-counsel to share this exhibit and mark it Exhibit 1.
Any objection from the prosecution?
No objection at this time, Your Honor.
Thank you. You can share it if you'd like.
I have a question, Your Honor. Is Elizabeth sharing Ellen sharing the memo?
I have no one on my screen that is sharing the memo. I believe she indicated that co-counsel is going to be sharing the memo.
The timekeeper is happy to share the exhibit. I am prepared to do so. So give me one moment.
Thank you, Ellen.
Okay, I'm sorry.
Thank you. Can you tell the jury, Ms. Thomas, can you confirm that this is the memo that you sent to Chris?
Yes.
And can you tell the jury what that memo said?
Yeah, this reminded them about the law and the school rules against hazing, and I sent a specific note to Chris that stated, whatever you do not let me hear any complaints from pledges about Gamma.
Thank you. I would now ask that the court reporters stop sharing their screen.
Thank you.
Thank you. And did any other students reach out to you concerning hazing or bullying?
No, but Milan did stop at my office Thursday, November 20th. I was concerned because she did want to talk about the whole Pat situation and what she said, but she appeared unsettled, so I called Chris right after she left.
And what was Chris's response?
Well, he assured me that there was no hazing, and I believed him.
And did you know Milan personally?
No, not personally, but again, I had that awkward awkward interaction with Marlon the Thursday before her death.
And what was your reaction when hearing about Marlon's death?
Well, of course, it broke my heart. She was such a young girl, probably full of life. It really just breaks my heart.
Thank you. No further questions.
Thank you. I'll turn it over to the prosecution for cross-examination.
Thank you, Your Honor. May I proceed?
You may. Thank you.
My name is Rachel Davenport, and I'll be asking you some questions on behalf of the prosecution. If you have any questions about them, just let me know. Now, you say that your campus has very strict rules about hazing. Is that correct?
Yes.
In fact, because of your reputation and low hazing numbers, your salary was increased, was it not?
Yes.
You have also won awards because of your hazing statistics, right?
Yes.
And it is part of your job to make sure those hazing statistics stay low?
Yes.
But despite this, you say that students and fraternities will still often play pranks on each other that leads to injury, right?
Yes.
But yet there have been no substantiated reports of hazing by the Gammas in the last 5 years, has there been?
Yes.
Now, Pat Smith came into your office to report hazing activities by Gamma, didn't they?
Yes.
And although, but you didn't conduct a follow-up investigation, right?
Well, I contacted the police right after she came to my office.
But you yourself did not conduct any investigation, isn't that true?
She retracted her statement. I heard from the police that she retracted her statement, so why would I do a follow-up?
But redirecting you back to the question, you did not conduct a follow-up, did you?
No.
Even though Pat Smith had experienced an asthma attack right after being paddled by the Gammas?
Like I've said, I did contact the police, and she retracted her statement.
But redirecting you back to the question, you did not conduct the follow-up even though Pat Smith reported an asthma attack after being paddled by the Gammas, right?
No.
And isn't it true that that fraternities had been punished for paddling not that long ago?
Yes.
In fact, Pat Smith is not the only Gamma pledge who has reported hazing, are they?
Yes.
So,
Pat, can you repeat my question?
Yes. Pat Smith is not the only Gamma pledge who has come to you and reported hazing, are they?
Yes.
But you admit it, but you didn't conduct a follow-up investigation into any of those complaints, did you?
They retracted their statements.
But you admit that those complaints most likely had some level of truth to them, don't you?
Yes.
So despite having no substantiated cases of hazing by the Gamma, you've certainly had reports, haven't you?
Yes.
Now let's transition to when Marlon came to talk to you in your office on the Thursday before her death. Marlon wanted to provide information about Pat Smith's injury, didn't they?
I'm not sure. Yes. Yes.
Now, right after Marlon left your office, you called Chris Archer, is that correct?
Yes.
You told the defendant that if Marlon had any information that gave proof about hazing, you would suspend the fraternity. Am I correct?
Yeah.
You also told the defendant that he would have to go up in front of a campus tribunal.
Yeah.
You then also sent out a memo. Am I correct?
Yes.
At this time, Your Honor, could I ask that the court reporter please share their screen to the memo sent by Dean Thomas that has now been stipulated as Exhibit Number 1?
Thank you. If you could share that memo, I would appreciate it.
Could the timekeeper please pause the time for one moment while the court reporter recalls it?
Absolutely.
Thank you. You may proceed.
Thank you, Your Honor. This is a fair and accurate copy of what you sent out, isn't it?
Yes.
Yes. Will you please follow with me as I read along? Chris, whatever you do, do not let me hear any complaints from pledges about Gamma. Dean Thomas. Is that accurate?
Yes.
So you told Chris to make sure that no information got back to you about hazing, right?
Yes.
That next Thursday, Marlon was dead. Isn't that true?
Yes.
No further questions.
Thank you. Any follow-up from the defense?
Yes, Your Honor.
Please proceed.
So excuse me, can you please talk through the steps that you take when hazing has been reported by a student?
Yes. When hazing is reported by a student, I contact the people that was involved in the situation, and depending on the extent of the hazing, I contact law enforcement, which I did with Pat Smith.
And what steps did you take when witness Pat Smith reported that alleged hazing?
Well, when she reported that alleged hazing, I, of course, contact Chris Archer, who is the president of Phi Gammas, so I had to contact him because that's who Pat Smith was pledging to, that sorority. And I also contact law enforcement because it was such a serious manner. I wanted Pat Smith to talk to a higher person to figure this out.
And because these claims had to be taken so seriously, you made sure to follow protocol. Can you once again walk through the steps of a person following proper protocol?
Yes. I obviously talked to her, asked what all happened in the situation, and if there was any injury that taken place. Then I asked who was involved, and with that, I contacted the people who were involved, and then I also contacted, with any situation, I would contact law enforcement.
Okay, thank you. No further questions.
Thank you. Any recross from the state?
Yes, Your Honor. May I proceed?
You may. Thank you.
You admit that there have been reports of hazing that you have not conducted a follow-up on. Isn't that true?
Not a follow-up, but I have contacted the police.
So that is a yes to my question. You have not conducted a follow-up.
No.
So you're saying no, you did conduct a follow-up?
Oh, no, I did not conduct a follow-up.
Thank you. And you do admit that most of those reports do have some level of truth to them, right?
Yes.
No further questions, Your Honor.
Thank you. Anything further from the defense?
Yes, Your Honor. May I proceed?
You may. Briefly, though.
So you did not conduct a follow-up, and why is that?
Because they were retracting their statements, so it was false in my eyes.
Okay. Thank you. No further questions.
Thank you. Anything from the state?
The state feels no need to elaborate.
Thank you. And thank you, Ms. Thomas. You're free to go.
Thank you, Your Honor.
And with that being said, does the defense have any more witnesses?
The defense would like to call Chris Archer to the stand.
Thank you. Mr. Archer, as with the prior witnesses, you were provided an oath that was administered in open court, and do you understand that you're still under oath?
Yes, sorry, I was having trouble with my camera. I do understand.
I just wanted to make sure that you were still here. You may proceed with the examination of Mr. Archer.
Can you introduce yourself a bit for the court, Chris?
Absolutely. My name is Chris Archer. I'm a student at Columbus University. I really enjoy hanging out with my friends, my younger siblings. So being a role model to younger siblings, I'm a family-oriented kind of person.
Are you involved in any clubs at Columbus University?
Yes, I am. I happen to be the president of the largest co-ed fraternity in the country, Phi Gamma. We have a reputation for being the most popular and sought-after fraternity on Columbus University campus.
Do you participate in any activities with any other activities with Columbus University?
I do, yes. I frequently volunteer at the local battered women's shelter. I tutor at the nearby elementary school, and I've participated and organized anti-hazing
Objection,
meetings.
relevance.
I'm establishing Chris's background and it further lays the foundation for other questions.
Thank you. I'm going to overrule the objection. You may proceed.
Sorry, I lost my place. Could you elaborate on what hazing is?
Absolutely. So hazing is when fraternities and sororities just play these awful, emotional and physically abusive pranks on their pledges. The only purpose I see is to establish what pledges are strong enough to join a fraternity or sorority. Just, awful.
How do you feel about hazing?
Oh, I despise it. I absolutely despise it. There is no reason that a fraternity or sorority should force their pledges to do such terrible things. The tasks that we make our pledges do are harmless, nothing that would ever cross over into violence.
What steps did Columbus University administrators take to put an end to hazing, if any?
Dean Thomas is very involved in anti-hazing activity, very dedicated to ensuring the safety of all students. Dean Thomas even sent a memo to all students who were involved in Greek life earlier this year, reminding us of the severity of hazing and the potential punishments that could happen from both the law and from the university, including suspension and expulsion.
Would you be able to recognize this copy you just referred to?
I would, yes.
Your Honor, permission to share this exhibit?
Thank you. Can you please share the exhibit on screen?
I'm sorry, is Ellen doing this too?
Yes, one moment.
I'm sorry.
You may proceed.
I'm sorry. Chris, can you please inform the court of the contents of this memo?
Absolutely. So this message reminds all Columbus University students that hazing is a crime, very serious crime, punishable by up to a year in prison in New Columbia, and that if a fraternity or sorority is caught hazing, they will be suspended and face potential expulsion.
Chris, is there anything else you would like to state about this memo?
Nothing besides that. I think this initiative by Dean Thomas is incredible, and I'm proud to say that myself and the Phi Gammas have all been, strictly adhering to this.
The court has the defense has no further questions with the memo.
Thank you. You may proceed with your questioning of this witness.
Can you ever recall meeting Marlon Jackson? Oh.
Your audio is out.
Just cut out.
Could you question, please?
Thank you.
Can you ever recall meeting Marlon Jackson, Chris?
Absolutely. She's very hard to forget.
How did you first meet Marlon?
Well, I first met Marlon in early September of 1997 during Rush Week. From what I could tell, she was very eager to pledge Phi Gamma, and she asked me a lot of questions about how to pledge. She seemed super eager to become a Gamma.
What was your knowledge of Marlon's past?
I personally don't have any knowledge of her past. I didn't at the time. Yeah.
So you have no mention of Marlon's past, no illnesses or anything?
That's correct, no.
What was your impression of Marlon?
Well, when I first met Marlon, she seemed to be a very smart and very nice girl. I'm always friendly to everyone on campus and our pledges, regardless of their attitudes. Marlon was very She seemed a little overconfident as time went on, but what was even more off-putting to me was her drinking. I don't believe I've ever seen a pledge drink more than her. We Gammas, we don't encourage our pledges to drink. She would just always sneak some in with her friends and drink in the bathrooms.
How do you feel about drinking in the fraternity?
I do not support it, don't condone it, don't supply alcohol to anyone, regardless of age, even if they're over 21. And if alcohol is brought to our parties, it's sneaking it in.
Please describe for the court what pledging is.
Well, pledging is the process by which fraternities and sororities select new members.
And can you describe for the court the process of pledging that Marlon underwent?
So the pledging process for us at Phi Gamma begins during Rush Week, when all prospective pledges sign up to Rush Gamma. It's usually pretty early in our academic year. They then all participate in, some fun, harmless activities overseen by us senior officers and senior members. Those same senior members then vote on who we want to make a pledge, and then those selected pledges participate in what we call Hell Week and Hell Night, before final decisions are made and a new class is welcomed into Phi Gamma.
And what's the nature of these pranks and pledge activities?
Oh, well, these are all harmless activities and pranks. Scrubbing the floor with toothbrushes, eating things sprinkled with hot pepper, little fun, harmless pranks like that. Nothing that ever gets violent.
What stages of pledging was Marlon involved in?
Marlon was involved in every single step, all the way from rushing to Hell Night. She seemed very ambitious and confident that she could become a Gamma.
Describe the activities that occurred on Hell Night, November 22nd, 1997.
Well, on Hell Night, we blindfolded each of our pledges and had them wait inside our Gamma house. We then, senior members then took each pledge out one by one and gave them their final task.
What happened when it was Marlon's turn?
On Marlon's turn, I went inside and I escorted her out. I then whispered to her, "You are going to have to raise the flag." But before I could finish my sentence and tell her to raise it on the door, she took off in the direction of the clock tower near the student center.
What happened next?
Well, the other Gammas and I, we chased after her, tried to stop her from doing something that could put her in danger. We all knew she had been drinking, but we did not want her to get hurt.
What happened after you reached the top of the tower?
When we all got to the top, Marlon began stumbling, and she started to fall off the ledge.
And what did you do next, Chris?
Well, I reached out, and I tried to grab her shoulder to pull her back into safety, but she was too far over the edge.
And what happened when you tried to pull her back into the tower?
She fell. She fell all the way to the ground. I don't think I'll ever be able to forget the sight of her falling and her lifeless body on the ground.
Did you ever have any plan to harm Marlon or any pledge for the Phi Gamma fraternity, Chris?
No. Absolutely not. It was never in our plans to make Marlon climb the tower or otherwise put her or any other pledge at risk.
And finally, Chris, I'm sorry to have to ask you this, but did you intend to push Marlon or cause her any harm?
No, I would never intentionally hurt anyone, and I'm heartbroken that she passed away, and I only wish that I could have done more to save her.
No further questions. That's your time, Your Honor.
Thank you. I will turn it over to the state for cross-examination. Please proceed.
Thank you, Your Honor. May I begin?
Yes, you may proceed.
My name's Rachel Davenport. I'm going to be asking you some questions on behalf of the prosecution. If you have any questions about them, just let me know, okay?
Absolutely.
When you first met Marlon, the first thing you thought was that she was overconfident, correct?
Absolutely not. The my first impressions of her were great. It was only later.
So you're saying you didn't know immediately that she was overconfident?
No, I didn't, and I would never claim so.
Your Honor, could I ask the court reporter to pull up Mr. Archer's statement, please?
Any objection from the defense?
No.
Thank you. Ellen, if you could please pull that up, I would appreciate it. Thank you. You may proceed.
Could I ask the court reporter to zoom in just a little bit, please?
I'm sorry, I don't think I'm able to.
It's okay. Will you please follow along with me as I read? She wanted to know that we were what we required for her as a pledge. I thought she was a little overconfident since we hadn't made decisions as to which freshman we would like to pledge. I now ask the court reporter to stop sharing the statement.
Thank you, and you may proceed.
So you did in fact find her overconfident, isn't that correct?
I did, and I apologize, I misspoke. I did not take it as a bad thing, as the rest of my affidavit goes on to say.
And after noting this trait, you even mentioned that she wanted to if she wanted to impress the Gammas, she would hang the flag outside the clock tower, didn't you?
I did, in a joking manner, and we both laughed about it.
So that is a yes?
Yes.
But you do mention in your statement that Marlon continued to rub you the wrong way, didn't she?
Yes, but I don't let that affect me. I treat all pledges the same.
You thought she lacked loyalty to her friend Pat Smith, didn't you?
Well, yes, but that did not affect the way that I treated her.
You also said in your statement that you thought she was stuck up, am I correct?
Yes, but again, my personal opinions do not affect the way that I present or interact with others.
Didn't you even go as far as to say you were hurt by her attitude?
Objection, Your Honor. This question has been asked and answered. We've already established Chris's impression of Marlon.
I'm going to overrule the objection. Please proceed.
I'll re-ask you the question, Mr. Archer. Didn't you even go as far as to say you were hurt by her attitude?
I did, but again, personal opinions.
So now let's look at Hell Week. You admit that your fraternity has a history of people becoming injured during Hell Week, don't you?
Yes.
Pat Smith was injured the week leading up to Hell Week, wasn't he?
Yes, they were.
You were also sent a memo from Dean Thomas, is that correct?
That is correct.
Would you recognize that memo?
I would.
Could I ask the court reporter at this time to please display the memo sent from Dean Thomas that has previously been stipulated as Exhibit 1?
Prior to that, Larry, is it all right if I give some comments? Because I do have to run.
Sure, Judge.
Guys, I apologize. I have a little girl I have to pick up from daycare. But Larry and I have been talking. He's going to take over for the rest of judging. But what I wanted to hit upon, I wanted to give some comments. One, don't ever apologize and just gather yourself, take a moment to pause, and then go forward. Opening statements were great in terms of elements and showing a roadmap. To me, that's very important to show where you're going to go. You guys know this case like the back of your hand. Don't look at notes. You know what you're doing. Have the confidence in what you do. For Pat Smith, the state had great open-ended questions. What I would say, there were some leading questions in there, so the defense don't be shy to object, and also upon relevance. I know there was one where she retracted her objection. Just say, just say relevance. Since it's already out there, say something, because I'll mess up the flow a little bit. All the witnesses have been extraordinary, including the one right now, which I hate to go because you've been phenomenal. everybody was doing a good job, especially in cross-examination, of cutting off the witness when they were saying, when they weren't directly answering the question. I thought that was a pretty good job of going back to redirect them to what the right thing is. Also, don't hesitate. I've said this again, but be confident. That you want a jury especially to see that you know your case and that you're passionate about what you're arguing. I thought there was a good job on Dr. Richards hitting the negative points. I thought more times you guys could have objected to the flow. There was one in particular that I want to go to, and I forget where it is. On Dr. Richards, what I would go back to do if you had a chance again is really hit upon his bias towards fraternities. He clearly showed that he had a bias there. But all in all, you guys have done a phenomenal job. I'm sorry that I have to go, but I'm very proud of what you guys have done. It's been an honor to be here. And Larry, again, I'm apologizing.
That's okay, Judge. I am very happy for thank you for judging this afternoon. I'm very happy to pick up from where Judge Saunders left off. So,
all right, we're having this is a first in a lifetime switching of judges. So,
in the middle of a trial.
Yes. Well, thank you very much. I'll take care, guys.
Yes, thank you, Judge.
Thank you. You too.
Bye.
Thank you.
Okay, Ms. Davenport, would you like to recommence your questioning of Mr. Archer?
I would, Your Honor. Thank you. I believe I had just asked the court reporter to pull up the memo previously stipulated as Exhibit 1. This is a fair and accurate copy of the memo you received, isn't it?
Yes, it is.
Would you please follow along with me as I read? Chris, whatever you do, do not let me hear any complaints from pledges about Gamma. I now ask that the court reporter please stop sharing their screen. Now, you were supposed to make sure that no Gammas came back with any complaints, right?
Yes.
You were also called by the dean to tell you that Marlon seemed unhappy.
Yes.
And this was after you had already discovered what you yourself called the less desirable qualities of Marlon.
Yes.
And on the evening of Marlon's death, you say she had too much to drink, yes?
Yes.
So when you brought her out to do her task, you made sure that she knew you had something special planned for her, didn't you?
I said something special, all in good fun, just to give the pledges a bit of a scare. That's what we like to do.
So redirecting you back to my question, that is a yes.
It is a yes.
You then tell her that she would have to hang the flag. Am I correct?
That was the first part of my sentence, correct?
Now you say that all pledges have to be familiar with the history of the university, right?
Yes.
Yes. And the history with hanging the flag is one centered around the clock tower, is it not?
Historically.
You even admit that your intention was to scare her, wasn't it?
My statement about having fun was intended to scare her, not my task.
So redirecting you back to my question, your intention was to scare her, wasn't it?
Objection, Your Honor. May I be heard?
Basis of the objection, counsel?
Argumentative. Opposing counsel is drawing conclusions based on that question.
Response?
Your Honor, I am simply looking for a yes or no answer, and I was refocusing the witness on my question to do that.
I tend to agree. I'm going to overrule your objection, Mr. Evans, and Ms. Davenport, if you need to, you can re-ask your question.
Thank you, Your Honor. Now, redirecting you back to my question, you admit that your intention was to scare her, wasn't it?
Yes.
And after telling Marlon to go hang the flag, she died, didn't she?
Well, I think you just skipped over some pretty vital events, but yes.
So that is a yes to my question.
Yes.
No further questions, Your Honor.
Thank you, counsel. Any redirect from you, Mr. Evans?
No.
Thank you very much for your testimony today. Mr. Archer, you can be excused. Is counsel for the prosecution ready to proceed with closing arguments? Well, let me start here. Are there any additional witnesses from the prosecution?
The prosecution has already rested.
No, Your Honor.
I'm sorry, the defense.
No, Your Honor.
Is prosecution counsel ready for closing arguments?
Yes, Your Honor. Before I proceed, I ask if I could have the timekeeper reserve 1 minute of my time for rebuttal.
Timekeeper, can you please reserve 1 minute of the prosecutor's time for rebuttal?
Yes, Your Honor.
Thank you. And you may begin whenever you're ready, counsel.
Thank you, Your Honor. Your Honor, opposing counsel, members of the jury, may it please the court. Intimidation turned incrimination. That is the story you have heard today, where the bright light of 18-year-old Marlon Jackson was extinguished because of the jealousy, rage, and selfishness of one individual, Chris Archer. The prosecution has charged the defendant with first-degree murder and criminal hazing under the new Columbia Criminal Code. The prosecution has proven beyond a reasonable doubt that Chris Archer deliberately killed Marlon, but also that he knowingly sent her up to that clock tower with no regard to her well-being or life. When Marlon first met the Gammas, she came in being very confident and ambitious about her future place in the program. The defendant himself admitted that he saw many of Marlon's attributes as undesirable qualities. His hatred of Marlon only grew, as you heard Tyler Johnson testify that he had a special plan for her, and he even mentioned having her hang the flag on the clock tower on a previous encounter. After the hospitalization of Pat Smith due to the hazing conducted by the defendant, you heard Dean Thomas say that even though Pat Smith did recant his statement, that Marlon still came to offer information into the event. Not only was Archer immediately contacted about what Marlon said about Pat and her unhappiness in the program, but the defendant also saw the memo from Dean Thomas that told the defendant to make sure he heard no claims of hazing. On the night of Marlon's death, the defendant admitted that when it came time for Marlon to do her task, he leaned down and whispered to her to go hang the flag. The defendant may claim that he meant the fraternity door, but you heard the defense's own witness, Dr. Jordan Mitchell, that the history with hanging the flag is well known. And not only is it known for being extremely dangerous and deadly, but it was a previous hazing technique that was often used. The defendant admitted that pledges must know the history of both the university and the fraternities. Each one of them would have been aware of the history that comes with hanging the flag. Not to mention, Tyler Johnson reports hearing the defendant tell Marlon to go to the clock tower. The defendant was intimidated by Marlon's personality, and that intimidation turned to incrimination. The defense would like to paint the picture of the defendant being clueless of what would happen, that Marlon died because she chose to go to that clock tower, but that is simply not the case. As you heard from Dr. Alex Richards, the gang mentality is very present within fraternities as they work to dehumanize their pledges in order to take advantage of them. Nichols versus New Columbia reminds the court that the level of criminal negligence relies not only on the ability to make rational choices, but the pressure put on an individual to participate. There was a great deal of pressure put on Marlon, as the defendant even told her that she would have to do something great to be able to impress the Gammas. What becomes clear is that for something to be first-degree murder, there must be the deliberate premeditation and unlawful killing of a person. The defendant telling those around him that he had something special planned, and even mentioning the clock tower, is premeditation. The defendant planned this murder, and by pushing Marlon off that clock tower, he committed unlawful killing. And just by sending Marlon up to that clock tower with no regard to her well-being, he also meets the requirements for criminal hazing. The simple fact is that none of this had to happen. Hell Week did not have to go so far. The new tribute's tasks did not have to be so reckless. Marlon Jackson did not have to die. Your Honor, it was not Marlon Jackson's time to die, but it is Chris Archer's time to face justice. This is intimidation turned into incrimination. The prosecution respectfully asks that the jury find Chris Archer guilty of first-degree murder and criminal hazing. Thank you.
You're muted. I'm sorry, Your Honor.
Thank you. Thank you, Ms. Davenport. Is counsel for the defense ready for its closing argument?
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay, you may proceed, Mr. Evans.
Your Honor, opposing counsel, members of the jury, may it please the court. Marlon Jackson was no innocent damsel. The prosecution's theory that Chris Archer was a malicious individual who pushed Marlon is incorrect and unsupported. Marlon Jackson chose to go up the clock tower herself, where she stumbled due to intoxication and fell to her death. She made her own decisions. She was described by the prosecution to be a smart and beautiful woman. She was capable and responsible for making her own decisions. She alone made the several conscious actions that led to her fall. The claim that Chris pushed Marlon is supported by no sufficient evidence. Pat Smith, Marlon's best friend, who claimed she saw Chris push her, was in fact intoxicated that night, impairing her judgment. Chris was attempting to save Marlon from falling to her own death. Furthermore, Ms. Smith has a stated history of lying in statements, thus her credibility is untrustworthy. Also, remember that it was late in the evening on an October night. It was clearly dark. Tyler Johnson, who the prosecution further relies on to villainize the defendant, had blatant and proclaimed motivation to lie. He admits to being upset at Chris for becoming president of the Gammas instead of himself. Mr. Johnson earlier said that he would become Chris's replacement should he be convicted. Additionally, even without this motivation, Tyler would still prove unreliable. He loved to drink and party, and others believed him to possibly have a problem. Could a person who self-admits to drinking to a level that others deem dangerous be the sole reason Chris Archer is convicted of a crime he did not commit? Additionally, Marlon never mentioned to her own psychiatrist that Chris threatened her or even that the Gammas hazed her. Dr. Richards states that Marlon had a series of mental issues. She had a history of unhealthy disorders. She smoked marijuana and drank alcohol, nearing the point of addiction. Chris knew none of this information. Again, Dr. Richards advised Marlon against pledging Phi Gamma, but the capable, smart, responsible woman she was, Marlon chose to anyway. A man whose character is devoted to helping others would never harm someone. Chris's passion was in charity. The dean testified that Chris volunteered regularly at the local battered women's shelter. He tutored at elementary schools in the area, and he was president of one of the most famous and reputable fraternities in the nation, known for producing successful people. The burden of proof lay solely on the prosecution. They had to prove to you that beyond a reasonable doubt, the highest burden in our American legal system, that every element of these crimes is true. Yet they failed. The prosecution failed to prove that Chris premeditatively wanted to kill Marlon. They failed to prove that Chris acted deliberately and unlawfully. They failed to prove that Chris influenced serious physical injury or death. Chris Archer is an innocent man that should not face life imprisonment for a crime he simply did not commit. Opposing counsel is suggesting to you to incriminate a guiltless man based on untrustworthy testimonies and flawed logic. Remember, to charge somebody with first-degree murder, you have to prove that beyond a reasonable doubt. That means all evidence must point to the fact that Chris Archer killed Marlon, which he did not. Marlon Jackson was no damsel in distress. Members of the jury, based on what the defense has proved to you today, I urge you to consider the facts of the night and find Chris Archer not guilty of first-degree murder and criminal hazing.
Thank you, counsel. Counsel for the prosecution, are you ready with your rebuttal?
I am, Your Honor. May I proceed?
You may.
The defense has told you that Marlon is not a damsel, and they are right. She is not a damsel. Instead, she was a person who was taken advantage of. She was taken advantage of by Chris Archer. someone she wanted to impress. Chris Archer was intimidated by her personality. Now that intimidation has turned into incrimination, members of the jury, I hope you see what Chris Archer did to Marlon, how he used his own need for self-preservation to take Marlon off to that clock tower and give her that final push. Thank you.
Thank you, counselors. Now we are going to send the case over to the jury for their deliberations.
Your Honor, I don't know. Never mind. Okay. I don't have any time for rebuttal, correct?
Defense does not know.